Hello everybody and welcome back to Screen Stars and welcome to another of my top 10 lists. And the top 10 list I have chosen for today is my top 10 favourite Jim Carrey movies. I think arguably one of the most talented comedy actors of all time, and he has proven on more than one occasion that he has the acting chops to move into more dramatic roles, as this list will demonstrate. There are some notable omissions from this list. Most notably for most people will probably be The Mask. It isn't on my top 10 list. That doesn't mean I dislike the film, it just didn't make it into my top 10 list. I just don't particularly care for it, even though I do agree it is a pretty good performance by Jim Carrey. So there's some excellent movies here of Jim Carrey. All of them, if you haven't seen any of them, are very much worth a watch. So I do hope you enjoy the list, and as always, thank you very much for watching. At number 10 on my list is the incredible Burt Wonderstone. Now, this is a film that I did a misunderstood movie review for. I really liked this film, and it did nothing at the box office. In fact I actually think it lost money at the box office. This is primarily a Steve Carell movie, but Jim Carrey has a large part in this film. He plays a magician called Steve Gray, and essentially he plays the villain in this movie, and he does a really brilliant job. And I do implore you guys, if you have never seen the incredible Burt Wonderstone, it's a terribly overlooked movie, and it is very good, very funny. Everybody involved is excellent, and that's why it makes number 10 on my list, because I genuinely like this movie and I think it's a great performance by Jim Carrey and it deserves more recognition. So this comes in at number 10 on my list. At number 9 is Man on the Moon, a film that was released in 1999, and this was one of the first attempts by Jim Carrey to move into more dramatic roles. This was a personal hero of Jim Carrey's, Andy Kaufman, and he really desperately wanted to do this movie, and there's many a story around that he stayed in character throughout the whole thing. And again, this lost money at the box office. It didn't do well. I think it lost money at the box office. It wasn't particularly well received, but everybody unanimously thought that his performance was outstanding, and it genuinely is. His performance in this movie is out of this world. At number 8, The Grinch That Stole Christmas. I think this is just a magical Christmas film, fantastic for the whole family, but the central performance by Jim Carrey is just outstanding. And when you see interviews with him, when he talks about the process that he had to go through for The Grinch, it sounded absolutely torturous and grueling, and I don't know how he got through the filming process, because it really did sound awful, the prosthetics and makeup that he had to put on. But the end result, I think, is a Christmas family film that will be watched many decades into the future, and this will probably stand the test of time for a long time to come, and it is an absolutely fantastic film and a great performance by Jim Carrey once again. At number 7, almost the forgotten Jim Carrey movie, The Cable Guy. This was the first film where it actually marked him taking a risk with a film, and it wasn't well received when it came out, but if you go back and watch this movie now, it is a very good movie. Directed by Ben Stiller, great cast. To look at some of the cast that's in this movie, it's got Jack Black, Owen Wilson, Matthew, I've forgotten his name now, from Ferris Bueller's. How can I forget his name? Very dark comedy, this, where Jim Carrey plays a cable guy who obviously has issues. He doesn't have any friends, and he befriends the main character when he turns up to repair his cable. It's actually very funny in parts, and a very impressive performance by Jim Carrey, and the first time he ever really took a risk. Number 6, Me, Myself and Irene. One of the Farrelly Brothers movies. Genuinely hilarious movie at times, this. Slightly let down by the substandard mafia plot, but for me that's not the bit that makes this film. The bit that makes this film is Jim Carrey's performance. It's hilarious. He plays a guy with split personality. One side of it is a very nice, gentle guy, and the other side is the complete opposite, an absolute lunatic. And when he takes control, chaos ensues. He met his future wife Renée Zellweger on this movie, even though the marriage didn't last particularly long. But it is genuinely funny, this movie. Really laugh out loud. Love it. Number 5, we're getting into mega hit territory now with Bruce Almighty. An absolute mega hit for Jim Carrey when this came out. The film where he gets all of God's powers and uses them to hilarious effect. Very, very funny movie. Endlessly watchable. And Jim Carrey's central performance is marvellous. Arguably one of his best of all time. It does get a bit sugary sweet by the end, which you can say about a lot of his comedies. When that sugary sweet ending at the end, it does kind of spoil some of his movies a bit, and it does here. That's the only thing I don't like about this movie, but everything else in it is just brilliant. And Morgan Freeman obviously plays a fantastic role in this movie as well. Really great film. At number 4, The Truman Show, released in 1998, another huge hit for him. And this, when you actually watch it now, is very relevant these days when you consider all the reality TV that's on the screens in this day and age. It does ring true an awful lot of this movie now. Again, this was a bit of a reeled back performance by Jim Carrey, a controlled performance, but still very funny. He showed his acting range with this movie, and this was probably the movie that allowed him to take a chance and decide to take more dramatic roles, because I believe his next movie after this was Man in the Moon. But it hasn't aged at all really, this movie. It still stands up. It is really watchable, really funny, and a really fantastic film. Number 3, Dumb and Dumber. Simply put, absolutely hilarious. And the genius of this film is, not only is Jim Carrey absolutely hilarious in this film, but they brought Jeff Daniels on board, who was not known for comedy, and arguably made his character even funnier than Jim Carrey's character, which I thought was just a brilliant, genius move. They are a brilliant double act on screen. There's very few scenes in this movie where you will not be laughing. It's that funny. And this would easily be in many people's top 10 comedies of all time. Fantastic, funny film. Sends tears down my eyes when I watch it. I did enjoy the sequel, even though I do agree it was a pale imitation of the first one. Number 2, Liar, Liar. Simply put, this is probably arguably my most watched Jim Carrey movie. Every time I watch this movie, the court scenes in it when he can't lie just absolutely crack me up every single time, because he was still relatively early in his career, and you can see the shock on the actors' faces when he's just ad-libbing and making stuff up on the spot. Absolutely batshit crazy stuff. It's hilariously fun to watch. I've watched this years ago. I used to watch it consistently, this film. I just couldn't help myself. It's hilariously funny. Again, ruined by the sugary sweet ending. If you take out the last 10 minutes of this movie, it's completely faultless in my opinion. I'm not keen on the sugary sweet ending, but other than that, truly hilarious. And at number 1, a bit of a cheat here, guys. I couldn't split them. If I had to pick one of the Ace Ventura movies, I would probably go with Ace Ventura: When Nature Calls, because it's the one I've watched most, especially with my son, and it makes me laugh every single time I watch it. And the first one does as well. It's impossible to separate, and because they were released so close together, they almost feel like, the second one feels like an extension of the first one. Both mega hits. First one put him on the map. The second one showed what a star he is. I'm just gutted that he never made a third one, but apparently it's the most exhausting character he's ever played, and I don't think he could face doing the character again. But could you imagine if he ever went back to it, especially now at his age? It'd be even funnier, because it wouldn't be relevant anymore, so it'd be even funnier. But for me, guys, absolute comedy genius. His performance is manic and genius, and then these two comedies never fail to make me laugh and smile, so that's where they're my number 1 So thank you for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the list. If you did, please leave a like on the video. Please consider subscribing if you're not already a subscriber, and I do thank you very much for watching.